to our first initial show. My name's Dion Williams. I'm one of the people in the panel right here, and this show is essentially about talking about sports, the local community, and our opinion on it. Myself, I'm Dion Williams. I'm the founder of Ottawa Hoops, which is a online platform for basketball in the city of Ottawa. To my left, we have Devon.
Introduce yourself.
Thanks, Devon. I'm Devon. I'm a local business owner. I'm a fan of any hoops. I love Ottawa Hoops, and I love guys who still ball and late into their 30s.
And to my right,
Shabeen Tucker. I'm a sergeant with the Ottawa Police Service. Also, I started the Ottawa Police Hoop Stars with my friend Japheth. And yeah, we're trying to do something a little different. So this is a little spin-off on all the stuff we've been doing. So we'll see what happens.
And I'm Japheth with the Ottawa Police as well. Ottawa baller from way back. I'm playing ball for a long time and still trying to keep my legs moving when I can.
expand on Ottawa Hoop Stars. How did it come to be? Was it you two just collaborating? Did you get the idea from somewhere else? Like, how did that start?
That's a good question. Japheth, you can jump in.
Yeah, we for years Ottawa Police have been doing a lot of engagement in the community. They go out and play basketball games within the community, but and we took part in that in the beginning. And we found there was a lot of we'd go in, play a game, and we'd leave. Didn't really get to stick around and get to know the people that we're playing ball with.
Okay.
The kids were playing ball against, and we wanted felt that connection was lacking as far as further understanding of who we were interacting with.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we felt there was a gap, and that gap needed to be filled.
Yeah, exactly. I remember having a conversation with someone and saying, "Hey man, we should stick around and just talk to the kids." No. We come in, we play, we're out. I was like, you sure we can do a little bit more?
Right.
Nah, we're good. So, as soon as I had the opportunity to just grab hold of it,
Right.
I haven't let go. And I've just been squeezing every drop out of different directions we can go with it. And I think it's benefiting overall the service. We're bringing in a lot of guys that are in that same mindset.
Okay.
That are jumping on board. A couple guys that just got hired. So it's that's the base of it. But we're really trying to connect with the kids, right? So whatever that means. We went to the Doors Youth Center down here on Somerset.
Right.
Ended up, Jav was kicking some kids' ass playing pool. I was playing some video games on the side. And no matter whatever it is, we'll figure it out. We'll just do that. Engage. We did rock climbing recently.
Okay.
Took them to white water rafting.
Is there an ideal age group? Is there something you're focused in, or is it just all youth?
The initially was the teenagers. They're hard to reach. That 13 to 18 range, right? That age we were at where we felt like Superman, right? You knew everything. You were at prime age.
Right. Parents can't tell you nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
Like I remember at 13, I was 6'2", size 12 feet.
Little disclaimer here: we went to high school together. He used to bully me, But
bully is such an interesting term. Talk about more guidance and inspiration.
Right.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset. It is a mindset. It has helped a lot of people that have gotten bullied.
I'm actually coaching high school right now, and I'm blown away by how much less bullying there is at the high school level. Like when we were in school, it was kind of like a rite of passage.
Right.
Like you had to survive it. But these kids now, they've kind of had a lot of anti-bullying training, and it just comes across the way they interact with each other, and just some they say goodbye to the bus driver when they get off the bus, and they're just nicer. They seem nicer.
Much nicer.
I don't know what's going on underneath, but they're on their phone a lot. But they seem nicer from the outside.
No, they do. The bullying. I don't know, man. The bullying thing's it's an interesting topic too, because I don't know. Bullying is helped. Like you have the guys that want to protect the people as well.
Right.
But of course there's people that can't defend themselves that get scarred by it, and I've heard about that. Being on the opposite side of right. Like I've always been tall and bigger kid, and always the guy hanging with the kids that were in the inn. So when you talk to people that were after, people are saying that they're bullied and stuff.
I think bullying takes so much different shapes though, because the idea of just classic bullying from the movies, I don't know if I ever really saw that, but even just excluding people from your group or creating some kind of us versus you thing. That's so natural for kids, and I think as leaders, as coaches, as teachers, we kind of have to break that down. you know, you can hang out with someone who dresses differently than you, who looks a little differently than you, and you know, that's the beauty of sports. Like when you get all those different body types and backgrounds, and everyone comes from different places. It's one of the best parts about being part of a team. You know.
100%. I agree.
You have to know the people on that team on a much different level, a much deeper level, and more understanding of the things they bring to the table. A lot of people bring things to the table, you might not realize at first, but as you get to be around them in that environment, those things come up.
Speaking of teams, we as Canadians can say we are national champions.
Oh yeah.
World champions.
For a little bit.
For a little bit.
We saw the commercial, right? We saw a commercial with Van Vliet and Siakam, and they had the you want a champwich, and then it's like back to back. And they're like, oh yeah.
Let's just say the worst thing about the Raptors is the commercials. Okay, like, if I see another spicy pea, like,
what do you mean?
No, man,
you didn't like the Biryani? What was that?
The pasta sauce.
Yeah, the pasta.
Oh no! If you want to go back, the history, yes, but the more recent stuff is just, I don't know. It seems forced.
Yeah, they're reaching.
There's tough. Like the one recently, they tried to have less speaking lines for him, which was good. But then at the end, he's like, hey, can you show my pictures for the parade?
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you got it, or something like that. And I was like, oh man.
So what's everyone's thoughts on the Raptors this year?
They're doing better than I expected, for sure.
Okay.
Way better than I expected. But they, so often have they done well in the beginning of the season, and then towards the end of the season, people realize that they're for.
Do you think, given what they achieved last year, that the rest of the team without Kawhi and Danny Green can accomplish what they did last year?
I think they're going to hurt a lot of people's feelings if people sleep on them.
Okay.
I think Van Vliet I've always liked him.
Okay.
From his college days. He has a killer instinct about him. Whatever Kawhi rubbed off on Siakam, he's eating and drinking that Kool-Aid, and he's destroying people right now. And if, you know, Gasol can hit a bunny layup, great. You know what I mean? Like
extra.
It's just 3 and D for this guy.
Yeah.
But if he could do a little extra in the post, I think it's gonna be
Raptor fan?
Oh, huge Raptor fan. Garbajosa days.
Oh,
wow. I love the trajectory of the Raptors. I love being a fan of Raptors. There's so many teams where you can't say the same thing, you know, they let you down all the time, but there's always something exciting about the Raptors. And this year, like, the length and the defense is exciting. I mean, when it comes down to a final shot, I'm a little nervous just because I don't know if we have that guy, that wing player, who can just say, everyone get away from me.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it happens in the playoffs. But there's different ways to win now, you know, and that coach is proving he can just draw something up and make someone look like a fool, you know. So that's key.
Right.
Well, you see these people, all the guys coming off the bench, it's like, who was that kid?
Davis?
No, Boucher. The duck. They love it. He's the best.
The block shot.
Like outside of the weird haircuts that he's pulling off with the dreads.
No, he's pulling it off. He's pulling it off.
I don't
That's
know.
downtown Montreal, man.
Maybe is it?
He's pulling it off, man.
But outside of that, he's balling, man.
Oh, huge. Above the rim. Like he's a fly swatter, as we used to say. He's doing all right. Like for the hustle stuff that he needs to do. Yeah.
Without that main player, without that main superstar, everybody else seems to have more accountability when they're on the floor.
Right.
With the ball moving around, to defend that at the last second shot, yes, it's tough to not have your main guy, but the benefits of that is that you have a bunch of guys who take ownership and responsibility of being able to make that last shot. So hopefully that works out well.
And last year, I found like the worst they looked, even though the best they looked, was when they just gave him the ball. Kawhi just take the ball and they all just stepped away. I mean, he did amazing things when they did that, but it wasn't necessarily their best ball.
Right.
It was just them getting out of the way, you know.
They did
so
win games without him.
and he came pretty close to not hitting that shot.
Yeah.
You know, so like, and
a couple of wind bounces.
That the difference between that shot and not is like a completely different story.
Oh yeah.
You know, everyone's credit just went right up, you know, because of the wins.
So speaking of the Raptors, Sportsnet recently released their all-time Raptor, and Kyle Lowry was at the top of the list.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
What are your thoughts?
As you know, pudgy two guards, I'm happy because because like I fit into that category. But no, like best of all time, Vince is 100% on the list.
Exactly.
Like just the whole sphere of it all,
Right.
like the influence, the style, that all-star game, like everything. Sentimental Keon Clark.
Oh, okay.
Ben, you're a real, you
Wow.
know the
The dunker.
Keon. I think he had like a 12-foot wingspan. Oh man, he was fun to watch.
You know, Vince. Were you telling me Vince brought bottle service to Canada or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard that too.
The Vince Carter effect.
Or
You seen
like
that?
the idea of like catering to ballers when they were in town. That started with the Vince era, and I think there's actually a woman who started it all in Toronto.
Yeah, she's
like a legend.
Yes.
And now anyone who visits, if they're even
That's
like
right.
the guys from ATL and the cities that have already good scene, they know Toronto's a place.
Yeah.
That's why Barkley always says it's his favorite city.
There you go. I would say Vince is
So
one.
Vince?
Yeah, the impact.
You know, DeRozan. I was cheered for him, but I was just like, Vince. I don't know who else. Bosch.
I would
You know,
have-
it's Stoudemire.
Yeah, Damon. I was
Damon
I was gonna-
Stoudemire.
Mighty Mouse days.
A lot of kids that started playing basketball because of Vince Carter and have made it to a high level.
Yeah.
There's so many that credit their success and their
Yeah, like our
love
Canadian
for
kids.
basketball. Yeah.
So Larry was number one.
I'm learning this right now.
One.
Yeah.
As
But
far as impact, he's been there for a long time. He's had a good long career. Larry hasn't, and Vince did too. And there's other guys who did have decent careers. But as far as impacting the entire community and impacting basketball in Canada, Vince has
It's like
to
that
top.
player that's like the fourth-year player on a NCAA team. Was like he's a favorite player, but he wasn't the most impactful player. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
God, Sham God for Connecticut.
Love that guy.
I love that guy.
love him, yeah.
Where is he now? We do not know.
Yeah.
But
But
he was like probably most
Tech.
impactful.
Is he?
But
No, he was.
Oh no, he was at Georgia.
we have the most impactful players that are the one and dones, but the guys that have been there and molded the system. You know, like that's Lowry. He's molded the system. Kind of have that, carry through the mentality type guy. Tough defense. He probably does a lot of stuff we don't know about in regards to inside the locker room. He does a lot. He's probably a good glue guy, and so you're probably hearing more stuff. There's probably more stuff about it that we don't know. But
Or they're trying to get him to resign.
yeah, it could help.
yeah, I know.
Doesn't Sportsnet own the Raptors or something like
Yeah,
that?
there's that
But
connection.
here
But-
the talks now. They're like, wait a minute,
We're doing well without him.
winning right now. This guy's at a $35 million contract. I can probably sign Van Vliet for a little less and keep him longer because he's not expected to make that much.
Who does Van Fleet remind you of?
Oh,
Remember that guard for Utah for a long time? Williams?
Darren Williams?
Darren Williams? Yeah.
Duran.
Yeah, remember when he was at the top of his
You think
game?
so? No.
He was like 30 and 12.
I think that Van Fleet's more polished.
Really?
More polished. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because he
Yeah.
was an all-star. So if he becomes an all-star, I'd be
Duran was literally 3 or layup. Or 8. I didn't see him. Van Fleet is.
Duran was one of the first guys who like kind of he almost had that little slow down and then go like some guys just go way too fast.
I agree, but the hesitation was to a layup. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
to like
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
up, right?
No,
it
no,
wasn't
no.
like it was like
True.
3 or a
that's the dude that killed his career trying to fight with a coach, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then he killed Utah because then the coach retired.
Oh, Jerry Sloan. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
he ended up
yeah,
getting traded to
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah.
else.
New Jersey?
New York.
Was it
New York.
It was the
And he
Jets.
was-
And the
Jersey.
Jets. The Nets.
The Nets. Went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
it was
Nets.
the
Went to the
Nets.
Nets.
Brooklyn.
He went.
Well, not
oh,
Brooklyn, but
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
He was a baller.
He was
yeah,
nice.
he was.
Man,
He was nice.
Killed Utah.
Yeah, he was nice.
I don't know. I don't think Van Vliet has gotten anywhere near where he is yet. He's
No.
got a lot of work to do to get there.
I think Van Fleet's gonna be an All-Star this year.
You think
That'd
so?
be a good bet.
I'd put money on that. I'd put money on that.
So we're gonna have 3 All-Stars?
No, I don't think Lowry's gonna make the All-Star team.
You think
'cause
Van Vliet's gonna make it over Larry?
Lowry's injured. Unless he comes back in the next 2-3 weeks.
He's playing starting point guard.
Like,
And they put Larry at 2.
they just went on a West
he makes
Coast
it, I'll
tour,
be
and this
surprised,
guy was
I'll be
getting
impressed.
like 20 and something.
Could they get 3 All-Stars?
Who's the other
They
guards
have to
that-
be
who's
top
the
never
other
two
give
guards?
it a try.
top 2 team.
Who's the other guards in the East?
Kemba Walker?
He's
Kemba
injured.
Walker's
He's
definitely
injured. Kemba Walker's injured.
Yeah, he just injured himself yesterday.
Like
Minor,
stretcher.
minor.
They
No,
put
like
him off
stretcher.
on a
I saw that.
stretcher.
Really? Yeah,
He
it
said
was
he avoided
unfortunate.
major stuff.
Yeah.
But
Okay, they definitely got Kawhi. Not Kawhi, but
Siakam.
no
no, tough guards in the East.
guards in the East.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry for sure, obviously. Not
No,
Kyle
no,
Lowry.
outside of Kyle Lowry.
Outside Carlisle.
Kyrie Irving for sure.
Kyrie,
Kyrie.
Kemba Walker.
Yeah.
Kemba Walker. Even though he's injured, he still get the bid or whatever.
If you can't name them, they're probably not even All-Star, man. You can't even think about them right now. In the East, who do you have?
The NBA All-Stars, like, I don't
Simmons.
even know who chooses
Simmons
it.
will
Fans?
probably
It's
be
half
an
fans.
All-Star.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons will probably be an all-star.
As a guard.
Is he listed
Miami.
as a PG?
Trae Young.
Miami. Yeah, Young will
Oh
be
yeah,
there.
he's
Trae
money.
Yeah,
He's good.
That's gonna be a tough
I
one.
struggle with these guys because they're changing the game and I don't like it.
It's not your
And it
game.
might be me being old school,
Yes.
but it's like, sorry, 3 dribbles over, not even 2 dribbles over half court and just chuck. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
For all those guys that are running up and down too, I wonder how much hate they have in their heart. Wait, these crossovers. Like, I'm serious, man.
Like, I just worked my ass off.
You're like, good rebound.
Yeah.
Outlet. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Up. You're like,
Yeah.
I didn't even cross half with you.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, but you know what? Though, a lot of those guys are. They have like their niche. They have the thing that they do well. Some of them are
Yes.
just there because they're big, long, athletic, and can rebound.
Yes.
They don't want to be shooting it.
Correct.
They're
No,
more
I agree.
athletic
I agree.
Matumbos.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if I'm an athletic Matumbo, I want to play with Trae Young. You just jack up shots, I'll run around and rebound. Hopefully my guy comes to help on
Dennis
you. I have to
Rodman?
rebound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those guys, there's a role for those guys now.
there is.
There's no specialists anymore though, like really, because everyone's got to be able to handle. Everyone's got to be able to push. Like, you remember the old days we used to get? It was always Bulls versus Pacers on NBC, and it was like there's only one guy who would ever be allowed to dribble the ball. So he'd always have to try to get open. And it was a completely different game. I missed that. That's the era you're talking about. Like, where the bigs were big.
The bigs were bigs, the guards were guards,
Yeah,
and the
they
ball
played-
went down low. People beat themselves up. There was no flopping. There was no, like, yeah.
I don't know, but I think this game opens up the opportunities for Luka Doncic to do what he's doing right now.
He's disgusting.
And he's just
He's
doing
nice.
some work. He's
He's
putting in
nice.
some work.
Yeah, but then at the same time, you guys can fire at me if you want, but then you have James Harden, who it's like a video game, man. Let's give him the ball. Let's watch one guy, hit the buttons all day and just jack, and you're like, that's not fun.
He takes a lot of bad shots.
but they go in.
That's the thing. He's very skilled, has a lot of talent. No one-on-one, probably one of the best ever.
Oh yeah,
to play
for
the game.
sure,
Ever, yeah.
for sure.
He does shoot a lot of bad shots, and I heard, I think, a couple of days ago where he's had maybe 19, 20 shots where he's had that many dribbles this year so far to shoot the ball without moving anywhere. But he's very, very skilled and shoots the ball really well. That's not any way I'd ever teach my kid to play basketball.
Right.
But
Right, and that's the struggle. Speaking of basketball and teams, Ottawa recently got announced the CBL, a new league that started up.
The Blackjacks.
Right.
their name?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Ottawa
yeah,
Blackjacks. They're scheduled to start in May.
The color theme.
What are your thoughts on Ottawa having a basketball team returning back to the nation's capital?
I'm glad that it's down at TD place. I think it's gonna be better.
great location.
Yeah.
The location's gonna make it work. We'll see what happens next.
There's so much more you can do in that venue, right? People can make that whole going to a basketball game a whole night, a whole evening. The restaurants there are
Right.
amazing. The environments there is amazing. There's parking. It's accessible.
Okay.
Right? Anybody can go. You don't have to drive either. You can bus. Buses. Go
It's
there
gonna
night.
work. I think it's gonna work, and I think they're striving for some local talent too.
Right. There's a requirement there to have Canadian kids.
Yeah, they got a chance.
Come back.
Well, I feel I'm not optimistic just because the history of Ottawa sports, and I think that location is way better than what they've tried out in Canada. But yeah, we'll see what the product's like. Live basketball is exciting. When you go to even when you go to Raptors game, you're never that close. So to be able to go up and see guys like above the rim, right up close, that's exciting, especially for kids. They got to attack the youth.
Yeah.
They got to get like deals with youth leagues, schools, get 20, 30 kids at a time getting in there together, having fun. That I think that's the key. From the sounds of it, their whole thing is youth, like
Right.
their name, their logo.
So, I guess the question comes is, are we Ottawa a sports city? Given we have an NHL team, an OHL team, minor league baseball, we had the Fury. Well, we don't know if we have the Fury, if we do have the Fury. We're taking a year off, and then we recently launched the CBL. We recently launched a professional basketball league in the
Blackjacks.
summer. Yeah, the Ottawa Blackjacks. Well, speaking of Blackjacks, what do you guys think about the name?
Staying with the theme of what's down there.
Yeah.
Same owners as the Red Blacks, right?
Is it?
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's not?
No.
Oh,
OSEG.
no.
That's the big misconception is
Oh, okay, I
the
thought-
way the league operates is there's actually one owner and he oversees the various teams. There's 7 teams now throughout Canada. OSEG is not involved. So OSEG are the owners of the OHL, the Fury, and
To answer your question, we are definitely not a sports
Definitely
city.
not.
I think there are people here who are sports fans
Right.
and good ones. Like
Right.
the people who love the Red Blacks love the Red Blacks. Sens fans, we've seen them, but I mean, how in comparison to
Even
other
with-
places we've been and seen, like it's just not even close.
I mean, even with the Red Blacks fans, if you take away all the peripheral stuff around the actual football game,
right.
there will be a lot less people going to those games. People go to the games for the environment.
Okay.
And the owners of that have done a great job of making sure there's so much going on at these games, which brings in the crowds, which makes it more of an event.
Okay.
And people are there now to watch football as well. Right? But it's not just, you're not going to Red Blacks games just for football.
Right.
There's not many fans who are going there just for that. So
But there's a balance too, because like you need outdoors, you need social spaces, you need alcohol, but you don't need gimmicks. Like when they've tried gimmicks in the past, it doesn't work with this audience. Like Ottawa, if anything, an educated town.
Yeah.
Like people here, they're not easily duped.
Right.
So some of the gimmicky stuff in the past, especially with minor league teams, it just. I mean, maybe we are a sports town. We just have high standards. I don't know,
Maybe,
because
yeah.
whenever teams lose, no one follows.
No,
them.
nobody.
A
Yeah.
lot of fans
Yeah.
are gone as soon
Yeah.
as he starts to lose.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that in terms of expectation. I think now that you're saying it, and as I'm reflecting on it, maybe that might be the downfall of the Sens is they're so far out there that there's nothing out there. Once you get out there, it's just hockey. And maybe people are looking for what you talked about in terms of the Red Black, that overall entertainment value within the game, something else.
Like I own a business in Ottawa that is so much smaller scale, but it's the same premises. Like people want to know the story. They want to know that they're coming to a place with their values, with like character, and if you start to lose your audience through those different ways, then your product suffers a lot. And people are so well researched now. Like you can't get away with being second class. It's just I think that team needs a new venue, a new energy, possibly.
The Sens you're talking about?
Yeah, Sens.
Yeah.
Like I would just love to see them move into this neighborhood,
Okay.
LeBreton Flats. I just think, I think the audience is savvy, and I don't think you can fool anyone anymore with B product.
Right.
You got to roll out the best, or why do it?
Yeah. You touched on being a business owner. Like, I'm always curious. You hear stories of business owners struggling and the challenges. Touch on that, I guess, because when I go down, sometimes I'll try to go downtown. In Elgin Street, for example, went out to go watch a football game a couple weeks ago, and it took me literally 25 minutes to park because it's closed. Like the roads are closed, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not doing this again. Sorry, I'm not leaving my house to drive downtown to drive around for an additional 20 minutes to find parking.
I think like of the angry business person kind of trifecta, parking is one of the corners
Right.
for sure. There's always parking beefs. Some neighborhoods it's free, some it's like crazy high now. Parking is huge. Like even I know with the kid and when we have like a lot on the go, I'm not looking for parking. I'm going places where I could just roll right in, And so my decisions, and I was actually gonna say when you asked, how is it to run business? I would say the chains are winning. Like in this province, in this city, there are people doing really, really good business, financially, but they own chains. They own companies that have central marketing, central
Right.
accounting. Everything's so expensive. So to be a locally run business and be an owner-operated business, it's a grind.
Right.
And you have to either come with money, like you have to start with a lot, so in case you lose. But it's just really hard to compete with chains. And I think as a society, we need to figure out like what kind of neighborhoods we want to live in. Do we
Right.
want to see the owner behind the counter, or do we just want to be the same thing as every other city with the same 20 restaurants,
Right.
the same 20 stores?
Right.
I mean, even when they open up new exciting areas, we talk about Lansdowne. When you look at the lease agreements, the first thing is proven business model only, which means chain. If you've never done it before,
Right.
how do you prove it? So new ideas, young ideas, fresh ideas, like they don't really get the playtime that these chains are getting. And you know, there's chains closing too, you know, just because it's hard to do business.
Right.
You know, people are expensive, power is expensive, everything is expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know, the businesses that we want to go to, we have to, you know, what they say, protest with your dollars. You know, you need to go and support those businesses and be part of a community. And there are neighborhoods in Ottawa that get that.
Right.
Like, there's no way around it. Like Hintonburg, Little Italy, Chinatown, these are authentic neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The people who run businesses in there, they mostly grew up in that neighborhood.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I like being here and that's why I like supporting here.
For me, I find that as a challenge, just as a rebuttal, I guess, is I live in the suburbs. So in the suburbs, it's really difficult for me to go find those authentic locations, right? So my only option is to go to those established places, you know, and it's hard because when I want to drive downtown, I'm not driving around town with my family for 20 minutes to find a parking spot. Sorry, not happening. When I know, you know, I can leave my house, drive 10 minutes, park, and get my food, and we're at an establishment. So I agree with you. We as a collective need to figure out what it is we want.
And I feel for you too, because the suburbs is like, there's so many people moving out, and the neighborhoods out there need to be walkable. They need to be, you know, functional for the people out there. And like, we take for granted downtown, we just go get a coffee, or we could walk anywhere, Shoppers Drug Mart. But I have friends in the same situation, and like, their whole life is a car, you know, and packing up the car, packing up the kids, like, driving here just to get groceries. It's like, you know, a 3-hour obligation. So, you know, I think the whole city needs to reflect on how we operate and what kind of businesses are in our neighborhood. And I think locally owned businesses would kill out in the suburbs. You know, I think those people.
We're starting to get a few in Orleans. We're starting to get a few different, like right by my area where I live. There's a few different locally owned. Small businesses that are starting to open up, and there's newer developments, newer mini malls.
The values are the same, you know. People want to support local business.
We do.
You know,
We do. Speaking of Ottawa and activities, what do you think of, I guess, when you think of Ottawa in summertime, wintertime, what are your top activities in the city of Ottawa that you do?
Ottawa's very big. I do host some teams that come in town from other areas. And the one thing they say is this city has something going on in the summertime constantly. The downtown core has always got some sort of festival happening, some sort of event going on. It's very busy, very busy. So it's definitely a lot to do, a lot to see.
That's
and
interesting.
If you like variety, it's there.
That's interesting. For me, the struggle is being in the suburbs. I always seem to be a week late, a day late, an hour late, missing something.
It's a tale of two cities.
It's very interesting. Like, you know, there was the Barhaven Santa Claus parade, and if I wasn't chatting with friends the week before, I would have had no idea.
Sometimes it's too. It seems a bit saturated. Like, there's so much going on.
Yeah. That's right.
And then no, I agree. And then other times there's not, and it's interesting because for me, I enjoy doing things within the city of Ottawa, but I find it sometimes challenging knowing or finding the information to be able to go to those things. Whether it is a Santa Claus parade or whether it is, you know, an event that somebody's coming once a year. I just find that very challenging. How about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. Like, even though we live in such a connected app world, and I feel like there should be an app for this, almost like just like this is what's happening in your city.
Right.
Maybe we should do that after this, but like, I just I feel like maybe sometimes the events compete with themselves a bit. There's like two things on the same weekend that I would both love to see. That happens with Blues Fest a lot. I think, you know, Ottawa is a really, really interesting point in its life right now because we're becoming a big city, and some people are a little against that, and some people are just all about that. Like, they're ready for world-class food, world-class entertainment. So there's a bit of rub on that, the two types of people in Ottawa. But I think now that Toronto and Vancouver are so expensive that everyone's moving back to Ottawa, and you're getting like artists who would have went to other places, and we're getting that kind of capacity to do things. And you know, Ottawa's got a lot of big cool events, you know, music festivals in general, but like the really cool cities have a lot of little cool events. You know, like you're just walking
like
down
a
the
night
street,
market or things of that nature,
because you know that's the real true sign. Like, and those are real local endeavors too, you know, and like grassroots stuff. You know, you walk down the street, you find a little something you didn't know about, that's a big city thing. But we're close. We're getting closer.
I feel like
Yeah.
we're getting there.
We're
I
getting
feel
there.
like we're getting there. As you can walk around the downtown core every once in a while, I'll see something new.
When I can get there and the LRT's working.
When it's
You gotta stand out of the doorway. You just land the door, keep hit him. Well, that's a poor situation. I feel bad for the mayor, actually, to be honest. It just seems like one thing after another.
It is. That's a whole other topic for maybe another conversation. But I want to wrap things up here. I want to thank you, Devon, for joining our conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Looking forward to continuing this conversation, Jaffa. Thank you again. And that's a wrap.